Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. Mindfulness is our topic of the week. So I want to talk about this subject because so many times, and I have gotten the emails before, and well, Jenny knows, I had this one conversation going back and forth with a woman who just couldn't find the motivation. And I have to say to you, motivation's never found, it's created. That's number one. Always remember that. You don't find it. It doesn't knock on your door. It doesn't rain down from the clouds in heaven. It's not a findable thing. It's an inside job. It's an inside job. And mindfulness produces motivation. I'm going to show you, I'm going to tie this whole thing together, and you guys are going to love this stuff because, especially you note takers, and I know I've got a bunch of you who take notes on this. This is worthwhile. This is really worthwhile. There will be aha moments. There will be things that you look at and you go, okay, I can do this. And it's so freeing, isn't it? When we think that we're held prisoner by this imaginary motivation that we just don't have and everybody else does, you know, we have this idea that they have it and I don't. What's wrong with me? It's not like that. And this will be really freeing. And I'm really excited to share this with you. Yay! Let's do it. So the research tells us, and yes, mindfulness has been researched because mindfulness is a function of your brain. Bruce Lipton tells us, he's the one who wrote, he's a doctor, MD. He wrote The Biology of Belief, and he said that we spend 95% of our time in the unconscious brain, you know? And I've been going through the new book, by the way, almost there, almost ready to give it to our Amber to lay all out and everything. It's done, you know, it's done, but I've been going through it and reading it and making sure, you know, everything is done. Hi, Mary. Mary's a note taker. I know that about you. But here's the thing that I found so interesting in this whole thing with mindfulness is that when you understand that mindfulness is something that you can produce on your own pretty quickly. As a matter of fact, that's why we have mindful mugs, because this immediately makes you go, oh, out of that unconscious place and into your conscious zone. Like I was saying about Bruce Lipton, which phenomenal book. The Biology of Belief. It can be a little, sometimes you're kind of trotting through it, but it is well worth your time. But here's the thing that he says, that when we spend all of our time in our unconscious brain, we are not creating the life that we want to live. We can't. You can't create life, can't create a vibrant life when you're on autopilot all the time. And again, that's fine for cleaning toilets and doing mundane tasks and, you know, whatever, but it's not okay for creating a vibrant life. It will never happen. You know, all of a sudden there will be a deep, deep regret. You know, Vicki says she likes to take notes too. Corliss, I'm glad you're here. Joanne, I'm glad you're here too. Anyway, so because we do this, if we're going to flip it and make a decision that we're going to spend our time mindful, then we're going to want to know how to get this motivation to go there. And I'm going to show you there's kind of a circular little pattern on this whole thing, and it really helps because yes, it's been researched. And Bruce Lipton, boy, he unpacks in that book, he unpacks the research in a big way. So there's three mindful practices that this was part of the research that they had. And I'm just going to report this to you because this is not something that I have. And then I'm going to share with you how I see motivation and how mindfulness all works into this and how motivation is actually produced from mindfulness. I'm going to share all that. So this is what the researchers found is number one of the mindful practices is to pay attention. Now, doesn't that sound like something your sixth grade teacher would say? Pay attention, whatever. But, think about it. How often are we really paying attention? How often are we really giving something our absolute full attention and listening and just, not waiting for a pause in somebody's conversation so we can insert our part, but really listening, really paying attention, being a part of, cooperating with. When we're paying attention, life doesn't pass us by. When we're paying attention, we're a part of something. And we are enjoying, we are demonstrating our love and our care for people. One of the things that I remember in that, what was that movie, that big movie that was a few years ago with the blue people, you remember, is that instead of saying, I love you, they said, I see you. And I remember thinking that really moved me, because I thought to myself, this is what everybody wants. They want to be seen. They want to be known. They want to be cared about. And paying attention, avatar, yes, exactly. Paying attention is one of the ways in which we get to a place of mindfulness, because it opens up the possibility of participating and being a part of someone else's life, your own life, nature, everything around you. Paying attention is something, it's not just something sixth grade teachers say, it's something that we need to be aware of. Can you see this? Yeah, everybody's going, avatar, the blue people, you remember that. But anyway, I see you. I see you. This is what paying attention is. It's not just a flip, I love you. No, it's an I see you and I'm with you. Got that? I love that so much. That just fills my heart. Number 2 is we live in the moment. In other words, we're not always looking, well, there's the next and looking at the clock and trying to speed our way through our day. Have you noticed we sometimes do that? I get that. But instead, it's being in the moment. It is part of the paying attention part, of course. But being in the moment is cherishing our time. And we talked about time was it last week we were talking? I don't know. I lose track. But when we cherish time, we're in the moment. We're having tea. I've seen, we very rarely go to a restaurant these days, and haven't been for a long time. We did on Saturday night. But you know what I noticed? Everybody was paying attention. Everybody was having conversations. Everybody was listening to, people were listening to the music and had chair dancing, because we weren't allowed to get up and dance it and all of that. And it was really quite nice. And you know what? I looked around. I did not see one person on their phone, not a soul. And one of the things that I have noticed is when I've gone out before in the past is just how sad. I've watched a whole family of 4 one time with just buried into their phones. That's not paying attention. That's not living in the moment. That's going off into social media land and losing an opportunity to connect. That's what mindfulness does. It brings us back to really our core center beliefs. This is how we also elevate everything. It's how our beautiful selves are fed. It's also our higher self that is called upon to be a part and to connect. That's really important. And number 3 is to accept yourself. How many times do we just diss ourselves all day? Oh, I look fat in that. Oh, look at your hair. Oh my gosh, can't believe you're wearing that. Talking to ourselves in such a way, it's such a put down. What if instead we accept ourselves, warts and all, and we treat ourselves like a cherished friend? That brings us to a place of mindfulness, because the way we treat cherished friends, the way we treat our best friend, we go over and above and beyond for them, don't we? It's a mindfulness relationship thing that we have. What if we did that with ourselves? That is mindfulness, and it requires mindfulness to do. Okay, so those 3 things will begin to open us up, in my opinion, to becoming more mindful and to becoming, to get motivation, because it just, one thing begets the other. Do you see the circle on all of this? It's very motivating. Of course it is. Paying attention, and suddenly things come to you. Living in the moment, you're able to see things. It's from going from black and white to color TV. Remember that? Different, beautiful, more stunning. And we get to experience that. And that brings in this mindfulness that was, unaware of before. It really is quite amazing, because we need to understand what is motivation but a driving force. And it means that you've got actions going to willingness, going toward goals, because motivation without action, it's nothing. Mindfulness helps to create motivation to go to the place of action and to get to the place of being willing for a change. Instead of having, all your yeah buts laying up, laying around and using all of those. Instead of all of that, you're going right to this place of willingness, and you're starting to say, yeah, I'm going to shoot for the moon. I'm going to go for this goal. It's going to be hard, but I believe with all my heart that I can do it. And you start to feel some emotion with it. That's motivation right there. But it's brought on by the mindfulness. So here's what the dictionary says that it is. The reason that motivation is the reason or reasons for acting or behaving a certain way, or the general desire or willingness to do something. A willingness to do something. What do you think of that? Do you have a willingness to do something? So we can fully create motivation, right? Remember, it's not going to come knocking at your door, but we create it by our focus, and that's where the mindfulness comes. So think about it this way. If you're thirsty, what are you going to do? Grab some water, maybe put a little hot milk mix in it, right? If you're thirsty, your motivation is a biological thing. You go and you pick up a glass of water. If you're tired, you go to sleep. Everything, this motivation, it creates an action, which then you get to do things, right? Then you get to do things. Hungry, you're going to look for food. Lonely, you're going to connect with some friends. This is just what we do, because motivation begins with mindfulness every single time. But it's fed by our biology. It's fed by emotion. It's fed by social connections. Sometimes social, it could be on one extreme. It could be social pressure, or it could be just this desire to fit in, or it could be, I want to do that too. You get to choose how you roll with that. And it also is part of our knowing, that beautiful self inside of you. You know about the beautiful self. We've talked about it. But that's your knowing is what feeds that motivation. There's my girl, Noreen. I'm so glad you're here. That's what feeds that motivation. And that is why motivation is such a force, okay? And it's all these things are produced, right? They produce motivation, and true motivation leads to action every single time, because otherwise it's just like, that sounds really good. You start to say the word but, and motivation just goes wah wah. It's just gone. Buts don't work. Butts are for sitting in chairs or whatever. But we need to do this. We need to do this because motivation is a force. Motivation is a powerful tool that we can pull out of our hearts, our beautiful selves at any time to move the needle in our life. So it pushes us, by the way, to our higher purpose. It creates an opportunity to fire on all cylinders. And when you go biology, social connections, emotions, your knowing, all of that, look at that. What you've got there is tremendous energy. And that energy can move you to your true north, to a vibrant life, to the very thing that you want, and the desire to get there, and the fuel for your fire. So this is, to me, is like the ultimate alignment assignment. And we always want to be in alignment. When we're out of alignment, our energy is just being sucked away. So being in alignment's everything. Being in alignment puts us into the place of lining up with the things that we truly want and having the actions behind them that just positively push us forward. You know that feeling. There is nothing like it. It's just, everything's going. It's like a sled going down a hill. Fabulous, right? Yep. No more yeah buts. We like that. So if motivation is self-generated thing, it wildly, get this, it wildly differs from willpower. Because I've had people ask me all the time, I just can't get the willpower. Well, I want to say willpower is so overrated and it's so temporary, because motivation is positive, inspirational, and exciting, isn't it? I think it is. While willpower is kind of negative, it's demotivating, and it's boring, and it's short-lived, because it's hard to hold on to willpower. This is why it's so important to build an intentional environment to support the life that you really want to live. That's why it's so important to really get into the weeds and to set up 12-week goals instead of doing a whole year at a time. A whole year at a time, you know what that does? That's demotivating. That's saying requiring willpower. That's like, I can't even fathom how long that is. So when we go to this place of understanding that we can create self-discipline with this motivation and be more interested in that than all the other things, it's going to lead us to the place of consistency, and it's going to lead us to the place of inner wisdom. It's just going to. And it does that simply because we have set ourselves up for all of it. And our actions are in alignment with what it is that we're wanting. And boy, doesn't that work. And that's how you feed all of that. Where when you've got willpower, it's short-term, like I said, and it demands perfection, doesn't it? Because willpower, one little slip, boom, the whole thing's gone. So I don't know about you, but anytime I've tried willpower and then it didn't work, it has to be perfect. That's what willpower demands. It does. And then when you don't do it, everything crashes and burns, and you're so disappointed. That's why I say all the time that willpower is entirely overrated. We don't need that as much as we need to be in alignment with the things that we want and to set up our environment intentionally. It's everything. It is everything. And when we have our rituals in the beginning and the end of the day, that bookend our lives, it's just, you can't fail, unless you go out of your way to just say, oh, I don't care, I'm going to go do this. You can't fail. You've set the whole thing up for success. It's really incredible. So here's what I want you to know. Motivation, though, still needs a support system. It does. You need the intentional environment, number one. You need to journal, number two. You need to meditate, number three. And number four, you need to have a community that is with you. Like-minded people, that's your lifting tide, floating all the boats. We get to do it together. That's why there's such incredible momentum that happens when we're doing things together. You've seen it. We just experienced it with the sprint, for heaven's sakes. And we had a lot of new people. We had people getting out there and shaking their grooving. Did you see Denise, by the way? I loved what Denise said. Denise was out there doing her 4-minute workout, and she videotaped it with her little granddaughter. So cute. That is incredible. Oh my goodness, Corliss, did you see what Corliss said? She said, I got a good compliment yesterday. My daughter-in-law's mother told me you can really tell that she's lost weight, and it made her feel good. Of course it did. You're fabulous, Corliss. Of course it did. And you deserve that compliment, by the way. You've been working this program. So when we're living in consistent mindfulness, it's just motivating. It's motivating, and it creates momentum for that motivation. And it helps us to become one with our alignment. We are in alignment, where actions are following the things that we want to do. We're building that bridge. We have a bridge. We all do. We have that big gap. We're here. We want to go there. Well, there's a bridge that needs to be built, and you got to do the building. That's all there is to it. But you can be a happy builder about this. You can be delighted, as a matter of fact, about this. You can be the architect with this whole thing. It's highly customized, and it's highly doable. And you have all the tools already. It's just a matter of opening that box and using them. So if we're going to go to this place of really experiencing vibrancy, finding our true north, and truly feeling good about what our lives are, we need to harness this motivation. And it starts with mindfulness. Mindfulness. How about that? Did you know? Isn't that so? Did you find that encouraging? I sure hope so. I found this really encouraging writing it and doing the research on it. I just loved it. Motivation is something that we can bring within. We can bring it to our game. It's something that we get to feed. It's right here. It's here. Oh, good, Noreen. I was wondering why you were honking. Oh my goodness. Susan said she's enjoying the loss of pain. Yep, that's one of the first signs that the sprint is worth doing. Isn't that so true? Well, ladies, I have to tell you, pinky's up to all of you. And thank you so much for trusting me with this journey of yours and being a part of our lives and letting me into yours. It really is an honor and a privilege. And I don't take that lightly. I appreciate all that you do. I appreciate the fact that you show up for these shows, you show up for our webinars, and you show up for learning and being better and taking this to the next level. It's so much fun. I can't tell you how much I love this. Bye. Peace be with you.
Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.